With the official launch of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, experts say there has never been a more opportune time for SMMEs to enter trade of their goods in the international arena. They have urged the continent to invest on key transport areas, including sea, air, courier, road, freight and rail. They say such investments are key to ensuring the success of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. The AfCFTA is a free trade area that covers almost the entire of the African continent. The agreement aims to create a single market for goods and services in Africa, facilitate the free movement of people and spur economic growth and development across the continent. The AfCFTA has 54 signatories, making it the largest free trade area in terms of a number of member states, second only to the World Trade Organization. It is also the largest in terms of both population and geographic size, encompassing over 1.3 billion people across the African continent. We speak now to Thina Nodada, CEO of Waymaker Trade Solutions. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Thina. So let's just first start with infrastructure. We've been hearing a lot throughout the years. One of the major, impediments to Africa, enjoying greater and tighter trade relations has been infrastructure, transport being one of them, the cost of it, but just the lack of it. Speak to us about the importance of this.
Okay, Thabiso, thank you for having me, and good evening to your viewers. Yes, so in terms of when you look at Africa and you look at the logistics infrastructure and the setup, there is definitely great opportunity for improvement there from an Africa perspective. This is from our roads and also including rail. So it's been noted that our rail solutions in Africa are quite poor, with Transnet owning over 90% of the continent's rail networks. But you are seeing private sector pull in there as well, which should play a big role because, moving cargo with rail in comparison to road freight and in comparison to air, especially for your landlocked countries, it's cheaper, a little bit slower, but less complicated. So rail is still a massive area that could really unleash a lot of potential in terms of trade in Africa. The other aspect that comes in terms of infrastructure would be the quality of the roads that we have in our continent. And this goes beyond what we have in South Africa, but when you go into further in other African countries, it can get a bit worse, which makes conditions difficult for transporters and for trucks. So those are two key elements, I think, and I think this is a very good question, by the way, Thabiso, to get us started. This was a question that actually came up today at the forum that we had with the president and the president, Her Excellency from Tanzania today in Pretoria, where we're looking at how do you improve the costs of freight, especially from a road freight perspective, because it's either sea, which is long and many countries are landlocked, and then it's either air when you want to go, across 2 or 3 borders. Otherwise, it becomes quite difficult for the transporters as well. So the problem that we now have is we also don't have return shipments. So what you'll find is you'll have someone sitting in Tanzania and they will send tea, for example, to South Africa, as we've heard with the tea exports coming from Tanzania to South Africa. But when that truck returns to Tanzania, to Dar es Salaam, for example, it's riding empty. So it's on an empty load, and somebody has to pay for that. So you're finding that whoever's the importer is covering the cost to bring that truck here and actually take it back. And that's one of the things that's a problem in terms of easing the cost, and it's also a reflection of the minimal trade that we have. If we could guarantee return loads, it could really benefit us, and that would require more trade between the two countries, be it Tanzania and South Africa or any other country for that matter.
So we've been told that we're talking about projected $3 trillion market access here, and there are 8 countries so far who are already using the guided trade initiative policies. Now the question is, for SMMEs, how is this going to benefit them, especially given the fact that there are still some major stumbling blocks and agreements on certain things, like the country of origin in terms of goods and services? That is something that has been very difficult to overcome for countries, although if you go into some stores there, you are seeing some labelings. But SMMEs, how do they take advantage of that, given South Africa, I mean Africa's huge poverty demographics, as you mentioned, and particularly the young?
I think there's various ways in which SMMEs can take advantage of some of the assistance and opportunities that lie out there within exports. And one of those ways is we have a lot of support from our government through things through initiatives like Invest SA, also the Department of Trade and Industry, where they have the Export Market Investment and Assistance Scheme. So there's a lot of programs that are working around to assist SMMEs to find export markets that are suitable for their product. So it might be that you fancy Zambia, but it turns out that Ethiopia is a better destination for your product. So there's means and ways to do this research to find out which countries have an appetite for your product, which countries are going to give you ease of clearing the goods. So to really answer you, the problem that we have in South Africa is our SMMEs not being export ready. And by them not being export ready, it means they're not actually qualified for exports. And unless someone comes in and takes over from them in that position, or leads them or holds their hand through that road, there's quite a lot of things that they need to understand. So before you can export, you must, for example, be registered with customs. Before you can export, you must know, what products you're looking to export and what their tariff and HS codes are, which are the things that are going to determine what countries are going to charge you when you bring your product into their into that country. So I don't want to get a bit too technical here and lose anyone's attention, but the point that I'm making is that if we can work to push SMMEs, which they are getting support to export readiness, then there are actually ways to look and find markets out there. There is funding that government has put aside to ensure that SMMEs, when they've done the research, can actually go out and but do, what we call outward missions to other countries and look and engage with people there. This can be in the form of expos in that country. It can be a trade show in that country, or it can actually be an individual mission, provided that you've got an itinerary. So if you're saying that you want to be in a place for 4 days, you need to justify why 4 days, who are you seeing in those 4 days, why those people are relevant to you, and you have to have those confirmed. So it is a problem, and it has different problems in different sectors. So guys in textiles will have less complications than guys in agriculture, agro processing, etc., where you have now more stringent rules that come in place, which they refer to as sanitary and phytosanitary processes. So, which is, just to quickly give you an understanding, these are standards that are set by the World Health Organization and the World Trade Organization to ensure that anything that can be consumed by humans, animals, used on human skin, animal skin, or planted into the ground, that these things meet certain standards so that they do not result in anybody getting sick, any animal getting sick, or any pollution happening in that country. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I had just wanted to ask one final question that has been noted as another stumbling block beyond the rules of origin. You spoke about, for instance, the processing of raw materials and there has been a view that the heterogeneous economies, that there are different levels of development throughout the continent. When we as a country are already struggling with red tape for our own small to medium enterprises sector, how are we then going to overcome some of these challenges? You've already touched on some of them, but are we moving towards the right directions? Did your conversations today, touch on this?
Okay. Let me come back, because I think in the last question I didn't answer the issue about COOs, certificates of origin. Certificates of origin essentially are put in place in order to say this product has origin from a specific place. So if now you are sitting in South Africa and you import shoes from China, as an example, and you are an SMME based in South Africa, you put your markup on, and somebody from Botswana comes and wants to buy and says they want to buy your product, you will not qualify for the benefits of SADC trade preferential terms or the Africa Continental preferential terms, because that's not a South African product. So if that product is 100% made in China, then it's not classified as a South African product. However, if you bought the materials, or you bought the sole and you bought the different parts in different areas in China, and then you assembled the actual final shoe or t-shirt or whatever else it may be in South Africa, then that will be classified as a South African product. So that's where we are with these COOs. And then, Sifiso, you're gonna have to pardon me. I'm gonna ask you to please repeat this last question.
Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time, Thina, so let's leave it there. But I'm sure we'll get an opportunity to chat in another time, because obviously more forums are going to be in the offing, and lots of opportunity to discuss some of the outstanding issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
Sifiso.
So
for speaking to us. That there is Thina Nodada, who is the CEO of Waymaker Trade Solutions, just speaking to us about the AfCFTA agreement.